Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My mother is a non-Muslim. Am I held responsible as her son if she does which are normally haram in Islam? For example, do I have to make sure that as far as I'm able that she doesn't sit alone with strange men and doesn't travel alone? Keeping in mind, of course, that calling to Tawheed and warning against shirk takes precedence. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. There is no doubt the very first thing, the most important thing that you explain to your mother, invite your mother to, advise her with, and that you practically show her is the concept of monotheism and messengership. At-Tawheed wa Risala. Oneness of God Almighty, perfection of God Almighty, no son, no wife, no partner, no crucifixion, and that there are messengers. And from those messengers is a man whose name is Muhammad, who was a messenger just like Jesus was a messenger and Moses was a messenger. He was the last of the messengers, the best of the messengers, and he was the most thorough of the messengers. If you believe in these two foundations, all previous sins are forgiven and wiped away, and you begin a new, perfect, beautiful life that will lead you to eternal bliss and happiness. It's just that simple. Explain that to her. Work on those points from the Quran, from the Hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. Use common sense. Talk to her about the universe, about the birds, the trees, the rivers. Allah makes the sun, the moon, the stars, your fingertips, your face, your skin, your organs, everything that you can possibly think about. As Allah clearly tells us about the horizons and the anfus, وَفِي أَنفُسِكُمْ, in the horizon, in the horizons, in your own nafs, in the nufus, the souls, the bodies, there's an ayat, clear signs. So that's the very first thing that you should worry about and focus on. Now, just because we say that's the beginning and that's the first thing, that doesn't mean that that's the only thing that you talk about. As many Muslims misunderstand, and many du'at, they misunderstand this. It doesn't mean that you turn a blind eye to the rest of the religion and the commandments and the prohibitions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It does not mean that, as many people falsely think. Tawheed first means nothing but Tawheed. That's wrong. Warning from shirk first, don't warn against nothing except for shirk. That's also wrong as well. Perhaps a person may come to Islam through a concept other than Tawheed and Shirk. They may come to Islam through the akhlaq of the Muslims, the character of the Muslims. Alright? What you do and not what you say. They may come to Islam because of the honoring of the guest. They may come to Islam because of the feeding of the poor. So don't ever forget about your akhlaq and also teaching about the rights of the Muslims, how Islam protects the honor of a woman, keeps a woman sacred, it makes a woman noble, exalts her, and so on and so forth. So that's the general rule. As far as is she required to follow the mandatory acts or the mandatory instructions, is she required to avoid the haram things, prohibited things, then that's a very long, detailed discussion of usul among the people of knowledge. Are the kuffar held responsible? Will they be punished? Will they be taken into account for furu' ahkam al-sharia, the subsidiary issues of the sharia? In other words, Muslims are prohibited from eating the flesh of swine. So if a non-Muslim eats the flesh of swine, will he be punished? He's going to be punished for his kufr in the hereafter. But will he also be punished for the swine as well? Or, just because swine is haram to me, does it mean that I can't sell it to a non-Muslim? Because a non-Muslim can eat swine. For example, methanin. And that's an issue in itself. Because Christians, they're not supposed to eat swine. Or Jews. But to someone who isn't a Christian isn't a Muslim. Or isn't a Jew. Alright, or clothes. Is it permissible for me to wear tight, or sell tight clothes to a non-Muslim woman? Perfume. Can I sell perfume to a non-Muslim woman? Or anything else that's haram in our sharia? Everybody understand this? Anything else that's haram in what? Our sharia. So some of the ulama say that the kuffar are held responsible for these things and they will be punished for them in the hereafter. And other ulama, they say no. The thing that they're going to be punished for and held responsible for is kufr and shirk. And that's it. Everybody understand this? Whether the first opinion or the second opinion, your mother is not someone that's directly under your guidance and under your guardianship. She's not your daughter. It's a difference if she was what? Your daughter. It's your mother. All right? Especially, and Allah knows best where the question is coming from, but it seems as if it's coming from a Western country, UK, Canada, America, or something, Australia, in which it's secular values. The mother is grown. She works. She has a job. She has this. She has that. She's not a young child. You're not in charge of her. She's not your daughter. She's not your wife. You had a non-Muslim wife, a different story. A non-Muslim daughter, so what? A different story. And even in that case, she's not a Muslim. What can you do? You can't force her to obey the Sharia. She's not even a Muslim. If she was a Muslim, you can't force her to obey the Sharia. You may have a Muslim mother that doesn't want to wear hijab. What are you going to do? Lock your mother up? Everybody understand this? This is very important for us to realize this. So therefore, what's important is that you call her to Islam, you advise her, you give her the proper necessary nasiha, and you put forth, akhi, yourself, a good example, ukhti. You put forth a good example. As the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ. He says, I've only been sent to perfect good character. So that's one of the strongest things that call someone to Islam is good akhlaq. And at the end of the day, Allah will guide the people that He knows are suitable for guidance. Those whom He knows deserve guidance. And it's just that simple and it's just that easy. You cannot force your mother to do things and not to do things. She's not a Muslim. You're not living in an Islamic state. You're not the Khalifa. You're not the Sultan. That's not your job. That isn't your responsibility. Make dua for her. Be kind to her. Be progressive in your steps and your stages. Don't put a mountain on her. All right? Don't drop everything on her all at once. Steps and stages with wisdom, with gentleness, with kindness, and with respect. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide your mother. Allahumma ameen.